Okay.
Have you ever noticed how the weather is lately? How the climate changes and how the summers seem to be lasting longer, how the winters have been abnormal, where one day it's cold, it's 32, and the next day it can be 78 or 60 something. You may think that it's just science, it's just the way things are changing, or that it'll all equal out. But it really does affect us in ways that we don't even see on a day-to-day basis. Now, I became interested in the environment whenever I bought this house, and I had my own piece of land, and I had something to think about in the future with my children, and it got me interested. And so what I want to talk about tonight is our environment and how it's rapidly changing for the worse. However, we can all do something about it by starting small. And in order to understand the problems of our environment and how it does affect our daily lives, I'll talk about what's causing it, some of the effects of it, and some of the small steps that you can take to prevent it. So, according to the EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency, starting in the late 18th century, during the Industrial Revolution, when they were building railroads and all the factories started getting built, they feel like that's probably when it started, when all the smokestacks went up. And that's where really the majority of greenhouse gases come in. And greenhouse gases are basically they come from the burning of coal, the burning of oil. And why it's a problem is because if you get too much of it, it traps it in. It creates basically like a blanket. There's a blanket in the atmosphere. You can't see it, but it traps greenhouse gases because there's just so much. And the greenhouse gases are so thick they can't dissipate. And if there's too much of it, it creates that blanket and it warms the earth. And warming the earth, it has a lot of adverse effects besides just the climate, and some of those come from, according to Stanford University and their website, some of that comes from acid precipitation, which is damaging crops, and farmers aren't able to produce as much quality product. And then destructive pressure on the oceans is causing a lot of fisheries to not produce as much as they used to, because it's warming the water and it's changing, the fish and how they're living in the water. Loss of productive soil, and some species are even being wiped out because they can't adapt as quick as the environment's changing. And with the animals and with the rainforest and everything wiping away, it's also, they think that we're losing a lot of opportunity even for medicinal growth. Like they think, well, if part of the rainforest is being wiped out, what if in that rainforest there was the cure for cancer? There were things that we haven't yet discovered, but we won't know because it's all being wiped out. The same website, Stanford University, also it explains basically what we already know, which is we're one of the largest producing nations as far as factories, everything. And the more factories you have, the more smoke you have, and the more pollution. And then the same goes for, we have a lot of cars, and all of that adds up, to more than what the atmosphere can take. And that also goes with pollution as well, because that all breaks down. If it's not recycled, if it's not broken down properly, it all turns into the same thing. It's all junk that goes in the air. And to put it into perspective, I'd like to take this quote from a nun. She was a Sister Dorothy Sting. She was an eco-activist from Dayton, Ohio, who in 2005, she was murdered in the Brazilian Amazon for what she was standing up for. And this quote says, "Peasant people don't have a chance to share in the riches that the planet can offer because some people are taking so much of the pleasures of this world and there's only so much to go around." And she saw that and obviously, didn't get to didn't get to go any further. Now that we've seen what damages have been done, we can see that there are things to turn it around, though. We can all have an impact in the environment. It's not just tying yourself to a tree and being a tree hugger or anything. There are little steps you can take, even if it's as small as light bulbs. You know, the little curlicue light bulbs. That's something anybody can do, because that's taken uses less energy, which uses less at the energy plant, because they're having to feed in coal and everything else. You know, it's all coming from that same source somewhere. You may not be burning coal at your house, but it's coming from somewhere. All of these things are, and thankfully there is a wider learning of it now. A lot of people are more aware of what's going on. You can use water more efficiently by fully loading your dishwasher. It's little things like that that, even though they seem simple, they really do affect if everyone did it in the world. And of course, recycling, reusing what you have, whether it's paper or cans, and we do that here just out of why not. You know, that's the biggest reason. I think I figured, well, why not? You know, if it can't hurt, it can only help. And there are bigger steps, which not everybody can do. You can actually buy green power from the energy company, which is basically you give so much on your electric bill to buy into renewable resources like solar power and wind power, and that it's almost like an investment. It gives them more to work with and makes it more widespread. You can even, some people are choosing to go off the grid, and obviously that means that they don't even use the electric company anymore. They don't have an electric bill, but that's extremely expensive. At least right now it is. That's installing solar panels and the wind things. And really, you know, that's a lot of the movement that's going on. A lot of people are trying to get aware, and it's becoming more cost efficient. I just read something today actually about spray-on solar. That's the next thing that's coming in the next 10 to 15 years. It's almost like an ink, and they're spraying it. You can spray it onto roof tiles, and they said within the next 15 years it'll be really common, and people will be able to use that and won't have to, you know, they're hoping that, and that's from Time Magazine. No, actually that's from Reader's Digest. I read that. So, with all that, we see that a lot's been taken for granted, and we've already lost a lot of what God's created. But thankfully, it can be reversed slowly. We play a part in it, whether you do something or you don't. And again, I'm going to quote someone that's famous, that I thought this was a great quote, from Mahatma Gandhi. He said, "You must be the change you wish to see in the world." You know, and I think that goes with a lot of things. It's not just the environment, but specifically for this, that's true. We must be the change. It has to start somewhere. So I hope you all have a better understanding of this issue, and you can see how we can help.
Good.